Good Monday morning to you all. This is Craig Simmons, Minister of Music at First Congregational Church in Greenwich, and welcome to another edition of Music on Mondays. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between a hymn and a song when it comes to making music in worship. If you grew up in church, you're probably familiar with those things called hymns. Even if you didn't, you might be more familiar with hymns than you think you are. The definition of a hymn can be fairly nebulous, and for many, it simply translates to something like a boring old song my grandparents used to sing. One term you may have heard me use over the past few months is hymnody. It's defined as a body of hymns by a specific composer or a text author, or also the act of hymn singing by persons gathered for worship. As a musician, you might think that I would be all about the music. As my career has evolved and I've worked with singers more and more, the importance of words as opposed to music has moved into the primary place in what I do as a church musician and educator. Words, specifically those used in hymns or songs, help us tell our faith story, some that have been passed down through centuries. In the book, Sing with Understanding, an introduction to Christian hymnody, Harry Eskew and Hugh McElrath describe a hymn as a kind of poem set to music. They write, "It should be simple and metrical in form, genuinely emotional, poetic and literary in style, spiritual in quality, and its ideas so direct and so immediately apparent as to unify a congregation while singing it." When you look at a specific text of a hymn, such as Amazing Grace, your mind will automatically jump to the tune New Britain, which is the name or the music that is synonymous with Amazing Grace. You'll recall in an older Music on Mondays, we examined the hymn tunes in the back of the New Century Hymnal and how, more often than not, a tune and a text is connected together. It's unimaginable to think of singing it by any other means, but it can be done. Now, I'll warn you, turn off your volume now if you don't want your mind completely messed up by what I'm going to do. Taking the metrical index in the back of the hymnal, as we discussed on the March 30th Music on Mondays, you can find the metrical index or the meter of the text for Amazing Grace, which is 8686. And that means there are 8 syllables and 6 syllables and 8 syllables and 6 syllables. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Blind, but now I see. Now, you can take that text and you can move it around to different hymn tunes. And one that comes to my mind is a popular Christmas carol by good old George Frederick Handel back in 1719. Handel wrote this tune, and the Congregationalist minister Isaac Watts penned the text, "Joy to the world." Joy to the world, the Lord is come. And that will be the same meter as the text in Amazing Grace. So, again, turn off your volume if you don't want to see this. You can take the words of Amazing Grace and sing that text to the tune Joy to the World. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. And you can also do, it's a little different, doing the opposite way around. Joy to the world, the Lord is come, etc. And now you can avoid me whenever we get back together in person for ruining both of those tunes for you if you wish. When you read the text to hymns, and I highly encourage you to do so, ponder the text whenever a hymn appears in our live stream, or use hymns as your daily devotional, focusing on the story because they are stories. Marcus Jones, digital content editor for Premier, a Christian website based in the United Kingdom, shares his thoughts on hymns. He writes, Though it's nice to have songs with a contemporary musical arrangement we're more accustomed to, it's all about the content. So for me, the lyrics are the most important part. Hymns have some of the best, encouraging, and most passionate words you will ever recite. I will concede that they can become lost behind the complexity of ye olde English, but that's what I love the most. Hymns make me want to go away and research the lyrics and find the history and biblical basis behind them. Like most songs, hymns have backstories, some of which are truly amazing. The writer of the hymn, It Is Well With My Soul, Horatio Spafford, lost his business in the Great Chicago Fire, and his 4 daughters died at sea traveling to England. Using all of that tragedy, he penned a hymn that is still regularly sung today due to its reassuring lyricism. It's a heartfelt cry alongside sound doctrine that makes hymns extremely powerful. The other side of today's topic is songs. I'd venture to say that if you put a dozen church musicians together in a room and asked them to define the difference between the two, you'd probably get roughly the same answer, which is highly unusual when you get a bunch of opinionated musicians together in a room. Hymns have a meter with their texts. Modern songs typically don't follow this pattern of a metrical text, as they are often written in conjunction with the music they'll be performed with, and they aren't required to adhere to any specific syllabic meter. And you can't take those words and sing them with different music other than what they were composed for, generally speaking. In broad terms, songs have mostly been composed over the last 50 years or so for worship settings, particularly as worship styles evolved at the 1960s and the 70s. The most radical shift in musical styles occurred in the Roman Catholic Church in the late 60s after Vatican II, with the institution of folk or guitar masses. As a result of that folk mass movement, some pieces like On Eagle's Wings have found their way into the repertoire of congregations outside of the Catholic Church. Here at First Church, we don't often sing songs based on this definition, primarily because there aren't many in our hymnals. I also want to say, from a personal standpoint, there's no right or wrong way for music for people who gather for worship. Every place of worship, whether it's a storefront space, a European cathedral, a megachurch with 10,000 seats, or a neighborhood meeting house like First Church, each community has their favorite hymns or songs that speak to them and help encourage their daily walk of faith. Whatever songs or hymns you prefer, I hope you take time to separate the music from the text and really listen to what the words are saying to you as listener or as participant. Even if you personally feel your voice shouldn't be heard outside the shower, sing with gusto and passion in your home, in your car or shower, or the next time you're in a crowd singing happy birthday. Go for it. You'll appreciate connecting with others who are also singing. And with that, have a great week.